Hi, my name is Peggy LaPointe, and this is Talking Trash, a Green Tips podcast, a chance for me to dive into the world of environmental issues by talking to people in business, government, and nonprofits, folks knee-deep in the field of sustainability. Talking Trash is brought to you by the Energy Management and Water Conservation programs at Lane Community College. Both are two-year degree programs, are fully online, and employment opportunities are growing in the water conservation and energy management fields. For more information on these online two-year degree programs, go to energywaterdegree.com or find the direct links at KINK.FM. The energy and water programs are funded by the National Science Foundation, and scholarships are available. Talking Trash is also supported by Biketown. Biketown is Portland's bike share program with 1,000 bikes and over 100 stations across downtown and several neighborhoods. Now's the time to ride. Ride over to biketownpdx.com. Welcome to Talking Trash. Episode 16 features Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. The mayor and I talked about the new single-use plastics ordinance that, depending upon what happens in Salem, is set to kick in July 1st.
Well, the basic point of the ordinance, which was passed last summer, is to reduce the number of single-use plastics that end up in our waste stream. So the initial focus was on straws, but it also includes plastic stirrers and condiments and utensils. And as most people are aware, if you go get Chinese food or you go to a fast food restaurant, invariably you'll find out that they've included one of these items or some of these items, and way too many of them are just ending up in the waste stream.
Right.
We know that plastic straws, for example, represent one of the top pollutants found in our oceans and in our waterways. Here in the city of Portland, when we pick up our parks or pick up greenways, we find straws everywhere. So we wanted to try and figure out what could we do at the local level that would make a significant impact in reducing the number of those items that end up in habitat, waterways, on our streets or in our parks.
Yeah. And Surfrider's been working on this for a while. Here at KINK, we started talking about it. That would have been the fall of 2017. Surfrider was underway working on that. June, I've written down June was when, 2018 was when the Portland City Council directed Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to develop a plan. And they worked with a cross-section of stakeholders on this.
They did.
Both large businesses like Burgerville, small businesses. Tell me a little bit about that process.
It was a great process. So the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability was responsible for facilitating and managing the whole program, but the stakeholder group, as you described, was very broad. It included the business community. It included public health officials for Multnomah County. It included environmentalists. And very importantly, the group had two people on it who are disability folks who represented the ADA community, who rely on the use of plastic straws to be able to eat and drink. And so while we started out thinking about a plastic straw ban, where we ended was also respectful of the needs of people who are representative of the disability community.
Right. Yeah, because it's not an all-out ban, it's more of a reduction and taking into focus that there are folks who rely on these utensils, these tools, on a day-to-day basis. And so it's not that the city and the community is taking these things all away, but it's a question of asking, do you need it?
Yeah, we see this as an evolutionary process, right? So the first step is, how do we reduce the number of these items that get passed across a counter or put on the table when you're at a restaurant? And so this is really not a ban. It's an ask first policy. It requires people to overtly ask for a product in order to receive it. And what we hope happens is it starts the conversation around single-use plastics, where people say, wow, do I really need this? Is this something that I need right now, or is it better if I just take it and not have all of these single-use plastics associated with the food product that I've just purchased?
Right, because I remember when we first started talking about it at KINK, we did get some pushback from listeners saying, why are you talking about this? And it's not the straw per se, but it's about the conversation about, do you need these items? And if you don't, great. Are there alternatives? And talking to Nancy and Chanel with Surfrider, they had been doing a lot of the footwork prior to even bringing it, I think, to Portland City Council in getting businesses to look for alternatives as well. Porcano in my neighborhood, they've been using other things. And
great place, by the way.
Great place, I know. And I did one of their pub crawls, and there were a number of businesses who were using paper straws or reusable straws and that sort of thing. So it's a fun way to get the discussion going.
Absolutely. We see this as not only an opportunity to really get the conversation going, but also an opportunity to push the edge around innovation and the development of alternative products. Right. As you know, right now, compostable straws in many regards, and according to some environmentalists, are just as bad or maybe even worse than plastic straws because they don't really biodegrade. What they do is they break down into microplastic. And so you have this swirling gyre of microplastic in our waterways that ultimately cannot be remediated. So we need some new innovation here. We need some new technologies, and we need a broader appreciation from those who create single-use plastic and packaging that we don't need all of this stuff. Yeah. We really don't. And as consumers, we need to encourage more responsible consumption of these products.
Absolutely. So I work part-time in Metro's Recycling Information Hotline.
Oh, excellent. Great.
And
thank you.
we've taken tours on a number of places, and a lot of questions that we get are, as you mentioned, these bioplastics, are they any better? Well, we've toured Nature's Needs. And the product that they are producing for farmers who want a nutrient-rich end product, they're like, these bioplastics, A, they don't break down in time for our process, and B, they don't add anything to the soil. So, people say, well, how about bioplastics? Well, it's not necessarily, as you mentioned, the best alternative.
Not right now, but hopefully in the years ahead, we will have more opportunities, more products, and that's why I want to keep flexibility on our local ordinance. I want to be able to evolve as the technology and the product cycle evolves.
Well, and you mentioned the local ordinance. I just got an update on the state ordinance, the State House Bill 2509, which talks about single use, not just plastic bags to customers, but also straws and such. And before the microphones came on, as I mentioned, House Bill 2509, there are still some questions being raised about straws through drive-thrus, but most importantly, it could preempt more stricter laws that have already been passed on the local level. And with all the hard work that Surfrider, that BPS, that Portland City Council, and that community members did on this ordinance, it's pretty, and I use this word favorably, it's pretty aggressive. It would be really a heartbreaker to see this pass and have it preempt that.
Well, having served previously as the Multnomah County Chair and now serving in my capacity as mayor, I know that one of the greatest power plays ever is between the ability of local government to continue to be innovators and incubators for new ideas and the desire on the part of the legislature to preempt it all. So we believe that the single-use plastics bill being considered is very well-intentioned,
right,
and the people who are pushing it are people who are true believers in protecting our environment and habitat and the planet. However, I believe it is too prescriptive. It jumps to the final answer. It does not take into account some of the issues that were raised by the ADA community in our local process. And it's a static bill in that it will not evolve with the times. So as new ideas come to the table or new needs are identified or new potential innovations or products come onto the market, none of those things are taken into account. Yeah. And the fact that it would potentially preempt the good work that we've done at the local level is very concerning. So in its current form, although I do believe it's well-intentioned, I cannot support the bill and the city cannot support the bill unless it's heavily modified.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I was feeling. The folks behind the original bill, as you mentioned, had really good intentions. And then there seemed to be other spoons in the pot, shall we say, stirring it around, changing it a little bit. A
lot of plastic spoons in the pot, potentially. Yeah, and that's in all fairness to my colleagues in Salem. They're under tremendous pressure from all of these different lobbying organizations. And one of the first things that usually gets asked for is a preemption on local government, which really means how do we shut down Portland and their ideas. And in this case, we are definitely leading, as we've always led as a city, around sustainability and protecting the environment. Yeah. And we'd like that opportunity to continue to innovate and push the envelope.
Because Portland seems to have the ability to help influence our surrounding areas. You know, you see a city like Milwaukee, who's got a really progressive leadership in there now, and they're taking some pretty bold steps as well in a community that for a while seemed, how do I say this, to be a few steps back.
Yeah, well, they leadership makes a big difference. Mark Gamba, who is their current mayor, he's a terrific guy. He's a fantastic mayor. And this is something that he's really personally very passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so he's been able, in his capacity as mayor, to galvanize others in the community, whether it's the environmental movement or whether it's people in the business community, to also see the value in these kinds of approaches. So I would just chalk this up to changing times, changing needs, and changing leadership, pushing this agenda forward.
And voices in the community becoming more, I don't know if they're becoming stronger or more organized.
Probably both. None of this happens without support from the community. And there is a broad recognition, particularly in my city, in Portland, that the planet is warming, that we are seeing the impacts of global warming and pollution on our critical habitats. Even young children in this community can connect plastic straws into the ocean to the threat to the entire food chain, which is therefore a threat to humanity.
And their generation.
Yeah, just yesterday I met with a group of what are called Otter Scouts in our community. And it was mostly 4 and 5 and 6 year olds. And they are very keenly aware of the threats to the environment and what it means to them and to their generation. When I was that age, I could barely ride a tricycle, much less articulate an important policy need for the future. Yeah. So what I do, and keep in mind, I'm just the employee here. I'm the hired help. I have 630,000 bosses, and they're telling me loudly and clearly that they are concerned about global warming. They're concerned about waste products getting into critical habitat in our waterways, and they demand action. Yeah. And it's great to be the mayor of a city where the community is really leading the charge and pushing us forward into new and important directions.
And do you think that's why this ordinance that will take effect July 1st was so successful? Because surf riders are a pretty organized group. They have some strong leadership, and they've got a community behind them. These bills and these ordinances that go through, what have you found in your many roles in government to be the sort of the secret for these folks to help drive these conversations?
Well, it all comes from the community. In fact, I'll tell you a bit of a story. My first interface with this movement happened at one of my favorite restaurants, and I ordered a cocktail.
St. Jack's?
It was, in fact. I was trying not to be, I always try to be fair and balanced about all the great food we have. But yes, I was at St. Jack's, and it was a fabulous meal, and they did not provide straws with our cocktails. And I was really excited about that. And I thanked them, and I said, that's so great. And they said, well, actually, in a couple of weeks, we're doing a fundraiser for the Surfrider Foundation. Mm-hmm. And that led us to go to the fundraiser as well and be supportive of that, and to hear about the great work that they're doing in the community. And then I started noticing that restaurants all over the place, like I love the Byways Cafe in Northwest Portland, they have been strawless for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they also are on a must-ask basis. And I realized, wow, the market here is actually ahead of policy. Yeah. Government is falling behind. The community's already there. Business is already there. Certainly environmental advocates like the Surfrider Foundation and others are already there. We need to catch up, and we need to keep pushing the curve. And so that's where the partnership developed. And this was so easy and, as you say, successful, because we already had an existing coalition that we could just plug into their energy, their enthusiasm, and their passion around this subject. Yeah. And that's a good model for any social change.
It seemed to be, like you said, a great model, and it moved quickly, relatively quickly from the beginning, at least from when the city council directed it to when it was approved in December of 2018, there were a lot of, the stakeholders were pretty enthusiastic and big backers behind it. I mentioned before the microphones came on again that both of my sons' former fourth grade teacher invited me to come talk to his class about sustainability because they're writing to you soon and to the governor and want to take action in their own way and have their voices heard. What other kinds of, what are these types of letters that you're getting from the community and from schools, and how does that impact an elected leader?
Oh, it's very impactful. In fact, this is one of the questions that came up yesterday with the Otter Scouts is how can we engage? Yeah. And I love getting letters and emails from kids in particular, but I like getting them from everybody. For the most part, there's some I don't appreciate very much, but I do read them. Yeah. And we have a generation of young people coming up behind us who are highly impatient. Yeah. And they want more than words. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, okay, I've heard your words are great, but now I want to see the action. I want to see the results. I want to see the outcomes. Mm-hmm. And we have young people coalescing around the issue of the environment, around the issue of waste stream and pollution, around gun safety and school safety. And I compare that to my own generation. While we certainly had interests, we were not as galvanized. We did not feel as empowered as this generation is to really make a difference and hold us all accountable as adults. And I think that's great. Yeah. It has opened the door for better partnerships and deeper solutions than we could have had even 10 years ago. Right. So there's a lot of excitement. So letters, calls, emails. We frequently have people come in and testify to the city council, and we always welcome people of all ages to come into our chamber and tell us whatever they want to tell us. And in the last year, we've seen student movements where hundreds and hundreds of students will come together from different schools and help lead the charge. And in this particular case, we saw nonprofit organizations, health advocates, environmentalists, business people, all coalescing and working together on a common cause. And when we're working together and all rowing in the same direction, that's when we get momentum. That's when we make things happen.
Absolutely. And I think, you're talking about the different generations. I think the younger generation sees their peers being heard and being noticed. The young woman from, I can't remember what country she's from, Greta, who spoke to the United Nations about the environment, and the Parkland students and other kids whose voices are being heard and being listened to.
Absolutely.
So that's powerful for them. Before I let you go, you're right in the middle of your term. You've got some time to get some more green initiatives going. I want to ask you what you would like to see, whether it's in the next 2 years or a decade down the road here in Portland, that would help keep Portland not just as a leader, but thinking ahead of the curve.
Well, Portland has always been a leader around the environment, sustainability, and we're now in our fourth iteration of the Climate Action Plan. Mm-hmm. It was the first one in the United States, by the way, for a municipal government, and the results have been fantastic. We've reduced our carbon emissions by 21% below 1994 levels, even as the economy has grown, even as our population has ballooned. We're already in the process of drafting our fifth iteration, and it includes our goal to achieve 100% renewable energy. We've also focused on urban design and how we create compact neighborhoods that include lots of incentivization for active transportation and use of public transit, and discouraging the use of private single-use automobiles as much as possible. Yeah. And when it comes to our transportation strategies, we're thinking about this too. I think the big untapped opportunity for the future, though, is packaging in general. If you go to any grocery store or any pharmacy and you buy stuff, which we all do, it's amazing how much excess packaging there is. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why the national movement, the global movement to do something more about what I'll just call extraneous or irrelevant packaging, why we haven't done something about that. Yeah. And I'd like to see some of our local organizations take the lead and really show people that, hey, there's an incentive here not to triple box, package, strap, styrofoam, a small item. Just give it to us. We're not stupid. We're not going to drop it between the store and the car. And that gets upstream to the distribution channels and how things are transported and how things are manufactured. I think that's really going to be a big movement in the future because we already know the recycling market is being heavily disrupted.
Right.
And we just don't have enough landfill for all the packaging that's being created. We have to go upstream to the source and start talking about that issue too.
Well, it's interesting because the episode number 13 is my conversation with Tom Zaki, who is the CEO of TerraCycle. And next month, they launch a program called Loop. And I don't know if you've heard about it, but he targeted the 10 companies who are on Greenpeace's list of polluters and and over packaging and that sort of thing. And so far, 9 of them are on board, but it's an e-commerce site where you order your dish soap or your ice cream from Haagen-Dazs or your, pasta, whatever it is.
No, you had me at ice cream.
I know. That's where I was too. And it comes to you, UPS, in containers that are produced or made to be reused 100 times. It gets picked up by UPS.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic idea. And those are exactly the kind of innovations we need to push forward. And
he's hoping the West Coast is one of the next markets. It launches on the East Coast in the New York area and Paris next month. And he seems like an ambitious guy. And I said, let me know when it's coming to the
It sounds like a fabulous idea.
And those are the people that we need to get those ideas going.
You bet.
Well, Mayor Ted Wheeler, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining me for my conversation with Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. If you've missed any of the previous podcasts, you can find them at our website at KINK.FM. Be sure to like and subscribe to Talking Trash, a Green Tips podcast on Apple iTunes or wherever you're listening. Talking Trash is a podcast series featuring people in business, government, and nonprofits, and sometimes just regular folks in the Portland area and around Oregon who are having an impact in the world of sustainability. Talking Trash is brought to you by the Energy Management and Water Conservation programs at Lane Community College. Both our 2-year degree programs are fully online, and employment opportunities are growing in the water conservation and energy management fields. For more information on these online 2-year degree programs, go to energywaterdegree.com or find the direct links at KINK.FM. The energy and water programs are funded by the National Science Foundation and scholarships are available. Talking Trash is also supported by Biketown. Biketown is Portland's bike share program with 1,000 bikes and over 100 stations across downtown and several neighborhoods. Now's the time to ride. Ride over to biketownpdx.com.